What's up, everybody? This is another episode of Crazy Scary Cool. My name is Chris, and we are at about the midpoint of the NFL season. We just finished the first, actually, we're past the midpoint, but mid ish part of the season. We're going into week 11, so I'm a little bit late, so I apologize. But we're in the middle portion of the season, and just wanted to give an update. So the league and the year is starting to come together. We're starting to see some teams start to separate themselves from the pack. We're starting to offenses are starting to get solidified. So just wanted to talk about some of the trends and some of the things that are happening. So I'm just going to start off with some of the elite teams, the top teams in the league. So Kansas City, the only team without a loss, the best team in the league. They just know how to win. So I'll just list off some of the teams I think that are the best teams. So Kansas City, of course, Detroit, Baltimore has the best offense in the league. Um, I would say Philadelphia, and I would say Buffalo is right on the cusp. I would say those five teams are probably the five best teams in the league. But of those, I would say Kansas City, Detroit, and Baltimore are the true elite teams from top to bottom. Philadelphia definitely has the potential, but Nick Sirianni just does everything in his power every week to put the Eagles behind the eight ball. And then Buffalo, the offense hasn't fully came together. They traded for Amari Cooper, which I think if he can play like how I think that he can play, I think that they'll be really good. He was great when Joe Flacco replaced Deshaun Watson last season. He had some huge games. Like he really showed his stardom. And I think that once he comes back from this injury, he learns the offense. I think that he can do the same. Kansas City has the best defense in the league, best quarterback in the NFL, even though I think Lamar Jackson is playing better than him right now. But that's just more so because of circumstances. But you have one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play with a defense that can really just lock down anyone. They're running the ball really well. DeAndre Hopkins is looking good. Travis Kelsey has come back to life. He was looking like he was going to slow down, but he's come back to life. So yeah, they just know how to win. Like the play calling, like the defense, like they just know how to take away what you want to do, know how to slow you down, know how they take away big plays. Just a really good defense, really good team. And Detroit has probably been probably the best story of the year so far. They just had a crazy game against Houston in which Jared Goff threw five turnovers. I mean, they're just a really solid team, powerful O line, not one but two dynamic running backs who both of them could probably be the lead horse on almost any other team. Amon St. Brown, one of the most talented players in the league. Sam Laporta hasn't even really gotten going. He had a really special season last year as a rookie. He hasn't even really gotten going, but I mean, this offense really hasn't missed a beat. I do think that they do a really good job of spreading the ball around. I think it might behoove them to try to get Sam Laporta involved. Uh, and also maybe like if a second wide receiver could come up. So maybe one of those two things could happen. Jameson Williams is in and out the lineup. He is kind of a boom or bust player. They also have Tim Patrick. So they have the weapons there to kind of keep teams off balance. So maybe they don't really need like a second guy to be consistent. Maybe it can just be kind of by committee. I would say after that, just wrapping up talking about teams, I would say Green Bay is a team that is talented but not quite elite. Pittsburgh, that offense is looking really good under Russell Wilson. They just know how to win. That defense is tough. Um, that's probably, I mean, there's some other like solid teams. Minnesota is kind of, Sam Darnold is starting to have some bad turnovers, so it's kind of hard to fully trust him. Atlanta isn't really living up to expectations. I feel like this is kind of indicative of Kirk Cousins' career. Like he's just someone that he can make a bad team really competitive, but when you put him on a really good team or a good team and you want them to go to the next level, he kind of falters. So that's kind of about the teams. Going in talking about MVP. Up until a couple of weeks ago, I would have thought that maybe like 2 to 3 weeks ago, I would have thought that there was no clear cut MVP. But right now, it's looking like Lamar Jackson is going to go back to back and get his third overall. Um, him and Derrick Henry arguably have been the two best players in the league so far. They've been fantastic. Derrick Henry in particular, I mean, it's just he looks great. I mean, he's just a perfect fit for this offense. They're feeding him the ball. He's physical. He looks fast. He's making big plays. I mean, he kind of still looks like his prime never ended. And Tennessee, his rushing numbers weren't great, but it's because the offensive line, there were no weapons. I mean, if you anytime you put Lamar Jackson put so much pressure on defenses that he's gonna create space for everyone around them. And then you give Derrick Henry, who, in my opinion, is the best running back of his generation, the best running back we've ever seen. Um, behind a powerful offensive line, a mobile quarterback like Lamar. I mean, these two players have never played with anyone quite like one another, and I guess there's no one quite like that in the NFL. But it's a match made in heaven. So Lamar would be my pick for MVP. Derrick Henry should get some love too. Someone who's coming along, he's not going to win MVP, but Jalen Hurts is starting to come together and playing well. He's playing better than he was last year. Last year was a very chaotic year, and he's starting to look like okay, like he's definitely a star in this league, and he's looking good. Saquon Barkley is having a great year. Not talking about MVP consideration anymore, but Alvin Kamara is looking great, like the one bright spot for the Saints. One other player that I would just want to talk about is Baker Mayfield. He's looking good. Tampa Bay has got hit by a ton of injuries, and he's playing really well, man. Like he is a really solid quarterback. He's someone that I didn't really care for when he was in Cleveland. I thought he was kind of obnoxious, if I'm being honest, and his personality definitely rubbed me the wrong way. But he's been good. You know, I'm even if I don't personally care for someone, if you're playing well, like I'm gonna show love, and he's been really good. And I mean, he's Tampa Bay's quarterback for this foreseeable future. So shout out to him. He's had a very unique career, but it's looking like it's kind of right at the ship. So kind of moving on to young quarterbacks. So there's been some quarterback changes. Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson, two young guys in their second year who struggled. Bryce Young, in my opinion, well, Anthony Richardson only played very little his rookie season, but both struggled early on in their second year. Both got, I think, prematurely benched, and now both have the starting spot. So they're in similar situations, and it's just kind of odd because just benching them so early in the season, I know that you want to try to win. But anytime you have a young quarterback, Anthony Richardson, I think is 22, a very young guy. Bryce, in his second year, the Panthers gave up a lot to get him. Um, when you have these young quarterbacks, I don't think it's enough just to say that he's our guy. You need to be invested in his development, and that includes his the bumps that he makes along the way. I know that all these teams are trying to capitalize on a young quarterback on their rookie contract, and they're trying to kind of force him out there and hope that like they hit a home run with him and they can just build a team as quickly as possible. Like that's been a formula that has worked. But even with that formula, I don't even know if that is like a formula that should be emulated. That was something that kind of happened kind of by mistake. And I think everyone is taking a blue moon and trying to make it the standard. And that seems like that is kind of there's some folly in that. Quarterbacks like really they don't hit their prime to like 28 to 30, you know, maybe 27, like 27 to 30, you know, when quarterbacks have their best years. And like it's a mind game. So like you're just having guys throwing guys out there. Like it's so much to process and like there's so much to learn that it's gonna take time. And I just don't think some of these teams are being realistic with the development process. I think these guys are expecting them to play at an all pro level by year two. And we've seen Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes play at those levels in their first full year of starting. Patrick Mahomes, his first year of starting, um, well, first year of starting, excuse me. But it's like those guys sat their first year. I think Lamar played towards the end of his rookie year. Patrick Mahomes sat for his rookie year. They sat. You know, with Bryce and Anthony Richardson, they threw them out there. Mac Jones was thrown out there. Trevor Lawrence was thrown out there. Tua was thrown out there. And these are all still young guys. I guess Joe Burrow is someone else who played early as a rookie, but it panned out. But there's a lot of instances of where guys are getting thrown out there and it's not, they're struggling. Um, that says that maybe you got to let these guys wait. And also with that, look at someone like going back to a Baker Mayfield who had success, then started to struggle, and then as his career progressed, like he started to figure things out. Um, a Geno Smith, it's I think these teams. I guess the point that I'm getting at is that these guys have to take the long game. That if you do want to put your quarterback out there early on, I think you have to be willing to be patient and not just like he needs to figure out by year two he's getting benched. Like maybe like play out that first contract, those 4 or 5 year contracts, play that out and really let him develop. Like give him that long leash and give him a lot of time to play, and not just like okay, it's game six in your second year, you're not at a near MVP level. Let's bench you. That just seems crazy to me. Um, so crazy. Like Bryce, I think was benched before he had played 20 games. I think it was like that's just kind of crazy to say. So he hadn't even played like a full, not even close to a full 2 years, and was benched. Anthony Richardson, I mean, he may have played like 10 games, maybe when he was benched, around that, maybe a dozen. So, and then it's one thing to get benched, but then their backups, Andy Dalton and Joe Flacco, take their place. They come in and they show some flashes, but then they end up faltering themselves, and then you have to go back to the original starter. So it's like, okay, what is the game plan here? Like you want to give your team the best chance to win every week. Yes, but at the same time, like you also want to be invested in these guys' development. And if you keep kind of like throwing them in and out, is on one hand like it's going to throw off like any rhythm the team is going to have, and then two, it's going to shake their confidence. And if you're shaking their confidence, you are one, not giving them the best chance to win, because if a quarterback knows he has a short leash, you might not get the best of him. So if you have him out there with a short leash, you might not even be giving yourself the best chance to win. That's number one. Number two, you could be stunning your development by not giving him that patience and like devoting that time that he needs. So that's two. Um, and then just like I'm just confused on what the plan is. Like, do you want to? Are you just trying to win week to week? Or are you trying to develop this quarterback? And sometimes you can do both, but I think that if you're going to take a quarterback high, especially in the Panthers instance, you're in it for the long haul. So you definitely have to be invested in his growth. And when you just kind of like being so herky jerky with them, it just makes me think that I'm just questioning what the game plan is. So that's a little bit about that. Also staying on the topic of young quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels has been outstanding. He's looking like he's going to run away with Offensive Rookie of the Year, and even maybe get a couple MVP votes. I mean, if Washington is doing much better than expected, especially if he plays well and they get the upset against Philly tomorrow, I mean, it could happen. He could definitely get some MVP votes. Not saying he's going to win MVP, but if they get that win and he plays well, then yeah, he'll definitely get some love. So, um, next, just to wrap things up, just going to talk about the offenses. Offenses were looking they were stuck in neutral early on in the season. Those two high safeties were giving offenses fits. They were having a really difficult time navigating that. And it really stymied a lot of offensive play for people who are playing fantasy football. Wide receivers were kind of volatile. There were a lot of guys who were busting, a lot of players who were underachieving, not meeting projections. So it was definitely kind of chaotic. So yeah, defenses were looking really good early on, and offenses just couldn't get big plays. Were struggling to really go down the field. That too high safety was it was taking away those big plays, and um, weren't even really to get anything intermediate. Just a lot of things like really short. A lot of yards per completion that were well under 10 yards. So now we're starting to see offenses open up, but I really think that teams need to be invested in the running game. Get under center, get in an I formation or have a single back, but get in the center and run the ball. Force that safety to cheat up. You know, I mean, it's super cliche, but taking what the defense gives you, the defense is saying that we don't think you can run the ball, or you're not going to be able to, or we think that we can stop you even with too high. So try to run the ball. Running the ball, getting some tight ends in there. Um, get some big bodies and just being like make them have to like make those guys cheat up, make them like make a front seven have to stop the run. So I think that team should definitely do that. If they're seeing a lot of too highs. I think Mel Kiper was saying that it should get banned. That's stupid. Like, no, that's stupid. There's a way of countering it. And even if you want to pass the ball, you can still pass the ball against a too high. You can still get big plays. It's a little bit more difficult, but it can happen. So just to say to ban it because it's slowing down offenses is just silly. And like just be a competitor. Get some dog in you and be a competitor. So just wanted to give an update at the mid-ish part of the season. That's all I have today. Don't want to keep you here for too long, but again, this is Chris with Crazy Scary Cool. I love talking this NFL shit. So yeah, just like, subscribe, leave a comment, and yeah, let's chat. Have a good one.